Welcome to NuWu Sessions, where we invite guests from different corners of the Vegas cannabis industry, and we sit down to share a VIP table package in Nevada's very first cannabis consumption lounge, only here in the Vegas Tasting Room. Come check us out.
What's going on, NuWu fam? On today's episode, we're excited to have the lab operations manager for Melting Point Extracts, Mr. EDDIE WALDRON. Watch as we learn how MPX came to be, all while indulging in some new MPX products hitting shelves soon. It's only here on the NuWu Sessions Podcast, so let's get into it. Welcome back to NuWu Sessions, guys. I'm Tom.
I'm DJ.
And we're back at it with another one. We have Mr. Eddie from MPX, man. Thanks for being on the podcast, guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Likewise, man. Appreciate you coming on and blessing the podcast. We'd love to have MPX on here. You know, we're big fans. And it's one of the more popular vendors here in the Vegas Tasting Room for sure.
We always love to hear much MPX in this lounge. I know just me and DJ personally, like I cannot even fathom how many MPX dabs we've done behind the bar. So
Strawberry bubblegum kush.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Keep it coming. I love it.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to talk all things MPX. But first things first, DJ, let them know what we're sipping on here.
We have the infamous CANNACOCKTAILS that we do serve here in the Vegas Tasting Room. I got myself a Space Jam. We mixed it up a bit. My brother with the OG Ocean Water. And then for my man, we got a Pink Flamingo. You got to come down and try this, man. I keep talking about it. 5 milligrams a piece of THC. Goodness. Cheers. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that's great.
And if you ever want to know what space tastes like, you got to come down and try this. A little bit of cherry and a little bit of blue curacao. Do the body right.
That's awesome. If you want to know what space tastes like, that's a tall order, dude. I don't know. Someone's going to be here. Actually, it tastes a little bit more like sulfur. What are you talking about?
I'm like, oh, that was the wrong one. I'm sorry. Let me take that back.
That's too funny.
Might be in space after you have a few of those.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Floating.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Eddie, why don't you let the viewers at home watch and let them know who you are and how you got started in cannabis?
Yeah, so again, my name is Eddie. I work for MPX, obviously, which is Green Mart production. But I'm born and raised in Vegas.
Hell yeah, locals.
39 years old. So
there we go. Hell yeah.
But I've always been into cannabis. I mean, I'm a 90s baby, so you know, I had older sisters. You know, we used to steal weed from my aunt all the time. Me and my cousin in like 6th, 7th grade. You know, so kind of just getting into it like that, and you know. Recreation, obviously always having fun, and didn't really, you know, I guess find the medicinal sky, until probably about 2011 or 12 when I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Just kind of had a random seizure, you know, out of nowhere. Never had one before in my life. It was nothing too crazy, but yeah, couldn't tell you why you have it or whatnot. But it just from that point, it was like I have to make sure I continually medicate, and I had been up until that point, obviously, for you know several years, but it was just taking it more seriously, I guess. I was a patient for a long time, still am, and then obviously in 2016, when the medical market came on board and you know the licenses were awarded, I was kind of recruited from social media, and of all places, you know, because back then, obviously, that was kind of everyone's platform, you know,
absolutely,
in the kind of black market where you could kind of, you know, maybe show off what you were doing, and
absolutely,
you know, doing exactly, you know, home growing. So yeah, I was hit up by a couple individuals that were building the facility out here, and toured the facility, so I knew they were serious, and you know, had licenses, and from there it was just getting my foot in the door. You know, I went to college for business at UNLV. Was in property management and real estate for several years up until 2016, and then kind of, you know, as I got my foot in the door, just kind of said, you know, left it behind and made this the career, you know, that I wanted to do. So, but yeah, since 2016, started MPX since day one. We're originally from Arizona, as far as where the company was originally started, where it originated, where we came up with the name. But you know, from 2016 on up until now, I basically was entry level. You know, I used to pack and unpack columns, kind of learning all, you know, the ins and outs of, you know, all the equipment, you know, just the whole entire process, you know, from start to finish, from prepping material to the extraction to post-processing, different, you know, consistencies and, you know, purging and, you know, all that good stuff. So it's just, just working my way up, man. It was, like I said, packing, unpacking columns, and since then, you know, we haven't had a lot of turnover in the lab. I actually did leave for about a year from 2018 to 19. And then I had an opportunity to come back, because they needed some good people. So I kind of just dabbled in CBD world for a while, and then kind of came back. But yeah, so since then, and then I had a really good mentor. His name was Jesse, and he's on to bigger and better things now.
There you go.
But yeah, great guy. Kind of taught me everything I know now, and kind of just took it and ran with it. And like I said, just worked my way up. Once he eventually left, I got the opportunity to take over and take the reins, and here we are today. So there's
really
obviously been
exciting,
a lot of challenges, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been a great adventure. It's being somebody who's a patient and passionate about this plant and everything else that it entails has been it's been interesting, and also to see, like we were talking about earlier, off air, the business side of it, and just seeing how the market's going and trending, and just with all the lounges and everything else, it's really exciting, exciting times that we're sitting here right now and consuming cannabis,
For sure.
So it's really fun.
Yeah, it's definitely, as an industry OG myself, been in since 2016, just seeing the market evolve has been incredible. And being with MPX as long as you have too, like that's really wild, because I can remember my first introduction to MPX, I want to say was a cured resin. It was in the plastic little foldies. You know what I mean?
We used to do primarily only shatter.
Yeah, that was it.
This was 16, 17. We were making pretty good shatter. We put it actually in PTFE enveloped squares, so not parchment. But yeah, that was pretty much all we did for the first 2 years that I was involved. We were flipping slabs every day, and it's kind of funny now because we don't do any more shatter.
Yeah,
crazy.
You don't really see shatter in the market much these days. It's kind of almost more
infused pre-rolls.
You guys work here,
product,
but it's still around. I guess some people still make it, but I agree with you. It's now our post processing is just. It's way more efficient. Not to say that shatter isn't efficient, but takes up a lot of oven space, takes up a lot of shelves, constantly flipping. It's a lot easier to make batters and sugars and keep things in jars and sauce and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, you're exactly right. It's kind of a cool transition. We were doing baller jars back then, which we can't obviously do now. I'd love to get a 3.5 gram jar, but
man, as many dabs as I'm doing, man, that sounds perfect. But come on, Nevada, let's get it together. We can do an 1/8 extract jar. Come on, let's bring it back.
Right?
That sounds amazing. I came way after that, so I have no idea what y'all talking about, but that sounds like heaven right now.
So yeah, it was basically a 3.5 gram jar. We were primarily doing our sauce back then. So when it went rec, we obviously couldn't do that anymore.
That's amazing, man. Y'all got to stop playing Nevada, man.
Which I still don't agree with the whole 800 milligrams per gram thing. I think it should obviously, we should be able to package higher stuff into 1 gram. It's not like we're going above that limit, but, it is what it is. We have to work with this. So
That's true.
Well, I know that you have been an avid user and you've been in the game for a long time. Is there a specific strain or maybe even terpene that you prefer, that you always turn back to as far as consumption wise?
I definitely enjoy a lot of the newer stuff that's out, but I'm an OG Kush guy.
There you
OG
go.
all day.
There you go.
Team Indica.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
There you go.
For me, it doesn't matter. It's obviously it's it was OGs. Old school cookies.
For sure.
I think probably the closest strain that I really like now and, really enjoy the terps and the palate is GMO. Everyone says that a lot, but if anybody's had it, it's clear as day why that strain is what it is and why it, kind of, captures people that like those type of terpenes and that profile, and the fact that it came from a cookies and chem cross, and it's interesting enough, the guy who found it with Skunk House Genetics, one of his, a lot of his strains are crossed with the Larry OG F8 that he worked. And that's another one of my favorite strains, Larry for sure. But any OG, any of the old school ones, Ghost, Larry, those are definitely a little different as far as terpene or flavonoid profile. But GMO, I think other than that, this day and age, or anything crossed with it is really nice.
For sure.
We actually ran some skunk from Aether Gardens. We were talking about grape pie. We did a grape pie skunk mix, but the skunk came out very GMO. Has that really kind of strong terpene profile.
Makes sense. It's a very pungent strain. I feel.
And then some of the grape too. So, but yeah, those are probably my go-tos these days. But I'd say the only other strain that I'm a really big fan of, or I guess terpene, definitely would be like a Jack, like a haze.
Yeah,
Anything terpenoline, which we have a few strains, the Dark Knight.
Yes, sir, I was about to say the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We've ran a few others from a couple new cultivators. One's called Desert Revolution, where we did one of their strains is called Strawberry Mango Haze. So that was where we created the strawberry bubble gum. We did a few mixes. I don't exactly recall what that mix was, but another one that is just, off the charts, terpenoline, very hazy, but a good old fashioned Jack, just something that's really hazy. I like all the newer fruity stuff, but I think those are, and I know they're kind of both sides of the spectrum, but those are definitely the go-to for me. I could smoke those, like I said, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Terpenoline fiend over here, right? I like it though. That's cool. I like it. And we were
Gotta
talking
be careful when you're dabbing that. I mean, definitely a little lower temp on those, but you can't chaz the throat up. But
feel it right around here. At least that's me. I don't know, with a little terpenoline. But we were talking before the show. So I mean, as a user, what are you smoking at home when Eddie's at home session, getting himself high? How are you going about it?
It's definitely MPX.
Dabs all day.
Not all day, but but yeah, definitely majority MPX. I do dabble, from a couple other concentrates. Some not sold in dispensaries, some that are, but mainly MPX. I don't really, like I said, go and shop around too much. I'm very familiar with a lot of the higher end, I guess, brands in Vegas or Nevada that kind of is, I guess, compete with us in that regard. But I'm always have my eye on the market, not only for other brands and what they're doing, flavor profile strains, but also for deals. If I ever want to purchase any of my stuff, we get samples from time to time, but it's not all the time. So, but yeah, so it's majority MPX. I'm a big dab rig guy, quartz nail.
There we go.
So I love that. I have experience, working with the Puffco and some other kind of, dab rigs on the go. And like, while those work great, like we were talking about earlier, it's not the same. You can taste it. It's the effect, I think, is a lot different. I like having, just with the quartz, I feel like, it just really brings out a lot of the profile. I do definitely go in at a little lower temp depending on how big my dab is. We were talking about that too. Or depending really if it's, a sauce or if it's got a lot of crystal in there. But for the most part, it's about 500, 520 if it's on a little bigger side. Definitely wasting it to taste it.
There you go.
To a degree. I'm definitely ripping that thing pretty hard. So I'm definitely a bigger dab, maybe a 0.1, 0.2 max, you know what I mean? Just depending on the situation and everything. But yeah, that's what I have at home. I have whole collection of rigs and
there you go. Hell yeah.
Quartz nails and when I transitioned from flower to dabs, it was a long time ago. It was I kind of had similar setups, bongs, but now it's all rigs. I like supporting a lot of the local glass blowers. Lexino and Nightwolf and a lot of those guys down at his shop. They pump out a lot of good glass, a lot of really good quality rigs. I like a lot of the really small little chuggers. I feel like they rip really hard and they function really well.
100%.
And for me, that's what I like, and I feel like that's what I need to get medicated to get where I need to be. So
some of those smaller dab rigs actually hit harder than the big ones, you know what I mean? Like, you just need enough room to make the dab happen. There's something magical about that. But
it's like Men in Black with the little gun. Or you
pull out the little gun,
it has a big bang.
Exactly.
Was he cricket? That's where we went in the podcast today. I was not seeing that one coming, but that's cool throwing it back. I've seen that one, several times, Shout out to Will Smith. Let's get this back in.
Let's not say anything about that.
Reel it in here.
Well, speaking about moving on, let's get this VIP package out here and see what kind of goodies MPX brought us through.
Let's do it.
So the VIP package that we're having our server bring out is one that we do serve here at the Vegas Tasting Room very often. We have the flower extract, or the premium package. Premium package does include a Dr. Dabber Evo Boost. Got to come down and come try one of these bad boys.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate you. We got everything from your Jerome Baker bong to his hammer pipes, tray, grinder, lighter, the whole nine. Everything's take-home product. Where would you like to dive in first, my brother? We got all grams. You got your dabs. We're gonna jump into dabs right after this.
You tell me. Lead the way.
We got a duct tape 1 and 2, and we have a triangle mints. I'm assuming these are gonna be for y'all.
Hey man, I'm gonna stuff a cone here. I'll smoke a little flower here.
Let's break it down.
Yeah, I think a cone would work good
for sure
as well. Yeah, duct tape is a really good strain. We entered it into the High Times Cup last year. really nice 0.3, crystal in there, 0.2 HTE in the jar. We made it look real nice and sexy, and took second.
There you go.
Aether Gardens, I think it was the banana rosin took first. So, I could see it. I got a judge back. I could see why.
There you go.
Although rosin and, BHO should have been two different categories, but there wasn't that many people that entered, so I understand.
100%.
Triangle Mint's another strain that's, probably not on my top, 5 of what we grow at the facility, but it definitely is consistently puts out good numbers, very frosty, makes good concentrates, good sauce. Definitely one I like mixing with some of our other terpier profiles.
I've always really dug the duct tape. We actually had an episode that we did where we were doing a blind testing. We were kind of doing what we do for NuWu Cup, where we just had 3 strains all unmarked, and we were just seeing what we liked the best. And duct tape actually won that one.
Yes.
Really?
So, yeah. And it was definitely...
That's awesome.
And it was funny, too, because right before we even announced 2-1, we were sitting there going on about, basically brand integrity, and it became a big MPX plug about, just like you said earlier, we all have a lot of MPX jars at home.
Yes, sir.
And so right after we made that plug, we're like, oh, look, and the Anthology duct tape wins it. So, testament to your product, you know what I mean? Fire in, fire out, just like we were saying beforehand, right?
100%.
Let me stuff this con for you, my brother.
So as we kind of get some of this weed working here, let's talk about MPX. And when did MPX get started?
So it was actually 2014 in Arizona. That was where a lady by the name of Beth Stavola, before the company, blew up and got bought out multiple times and is this big multi-state operator now. But yeah, she was from the East Coast, from Jersey, and I'm not sure how she necessarily got into business in Arizona, but got some production and cultivation and dispensary licenses out in Arizona. And a gentleman by the name of Bryant, who was one of the lead extractors and head, individuals that started everything essentially in Arizona, came up with the name collectively, with the owners and the other individuals in the company, and agreed upon Melting Point Extracts.
There we go.
And that's all they did. Even, looking forward into 2016 when we entered the Nevada market, we didn't sell any flower. We didn't start selling flower, I think, until 2019.
Wow.
Maybe even 20 when we officially launched the Anthology brand.
Right.
Everything was for extraction.
Right.
It was an extraction focused business and company, at least at the time, with regard to the brand.
Absolutely.
We didn't have any black label. It was just MPX cured resin, MPX live resin. And then we slowly, kind of moved into these other things, the sauce carts, creating the black label line for some of our lower level cured resins. And then, from there, we haven't really expanded too much. We've been looking at other avenues, into the market, but it's something that we're just, focus on what we do well, right? Which is make fire extracts. And it's always, like you said earlier, fire in, fire out, always with the inputs and just, and like I was explaining earlier, now it's with Anthology, we're kind of to the point. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're kind of to the point where it's we are selling a lot of flower now. So we kind of want to, I always want everything for extraction, right? Of course, but it's kind of just that finding that good balance, with what works for us. So,
I mean, flower is definitely king. It keeps the market afloat. But you're right. If you're rooted in extracts and that's what you built your brand on, you can't get too far away from it, or you just,
1,000%.
I think it's something you guys have always done a great job. And I mean, testament to you guys too. Just for you said since 2019 when Anthology went live. So in just like 3 years to go from just one brand to basically encompassing 3. If you're talking about MPX, white label, and Anthology, that's no small feat. So, shout out to you guys. Doing these things to scale isn't always easy, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, we've been, we still have the edible line, but we kind of scaled that back a little bit, at least for the time being, with kind of how the market's been going,
Gotcha.
And everything. But that may come back, that may not come back. We're still kind of deciding. I know it did take off pretty well at one point. But, a lot of people ask us about rosin, and if we're not ready to get into it, I can hold off. But that may be 100%. Something that, looking forward, maybe, in the probably second quarter of next year, potentially, as long as all the stars align, so to speak, we may, launch something. But even with that, it'll be very few and far in between. Again, very, very high quality inputs. It's very different from doing hydrocarbon as far as, your yields and obviously finding those strains that,
that are going to work
basically
well
dumb for us and exactly work well. And so it may be something slow, but we will definitely probably start dabbling into it. We currently do it in Florida.
Nice.
We have, back to kind of how Arizona, or excuse me, from Arizona into Nevada. Then we got purchased by, I think, I forget what the name was, MPX Bioceutical Company. There was a Canadian company before the current company, Ianthus. But yeah, I mean, we're in Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey. New Jersey actually has an MPX dispensary.
Wow.
It's not like a Health for Life branded one, but which I thought was kind of cool. So they do things a little differently over there. I know that in Florida, where they do a lot of the live rosin, you have to be vertically integrated.
Okay. You
can't buy other people's flower, and I believe they chose rosin initially because it's just all the regulations with hydrocarbon extraction and the booth and the fire regs. I believe I'm not sure if it wasn't allowed at the time or they just wanted to take that approach to just stick to rosin. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, we're pumping it out in other states. So I would love to get the opportunity to set up a lab here in Vegas. And we have a pretty
exciting.
comparable size area, AKA the kitchen, that could potentially be used for that process. We have some walk-in freezers and everything like that. So, we'll see what the future holds. It's like we were talking earlier, there was one point where we were kind of looking at a lot of different products, RSO, doing, the gummies, chocolates. And then I think the discussion kind of went back to again, let's just kind of focus on what we do best, right?
Absolutely.
And making sure that we're not trying to necessarily, capture everyone or all parts of the market, but let's just try to stay in our niche and do it really well, right?
Sure. Not straight too far from the
that
backyard.
has been working well for us.
Absolutely. I think, again, like we said several times, you guys have been one of the most consistent brands I've seen over the years, and shout out to you guys for it. And with rosin too, I always felt like with the name Melting Point Extracts, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of makes sense,
For sure.
Honestly, when I first was introduced to MPX, that's what I thought. It's like, well, what's in the name? So they got to do rosin, right?
Yeah,
but
right.
I mean, so, I'm excited to see that you guys are working on that. Can't wait to try some maybe someday soon. We'll see. If you guys do it, I'm sure you're going to be able to find it right here in the tasting room. But
1,000%. And you
For
already
sure.
know it's going to be fire.
For sure. Like I said, still early stages, but I think, as long as we can, like I said, all the stars align and everything comes together, it's, as far as equipment and processes, I think on my end anyways, that's part of the easy part. It's more of just, again, inputs, like I was explaining to people, it's, how we do hydrocarbon extraction every day. This is not something we're going to be doing in my opinion. It's going to be small boutique batches, probably
sense.
only those certain strains, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier off air. We're getting into tissue culture now, so that will give us the ability to kind of, maybe not have certain strains always in rotation, but always keep those hash plants, or even because there's been certain strains that I want to keep even just for hydrocarbon extraction, but because, for instance, our Hell's Angel OG.
Okay.
We phased that one out about a year and a half ago. I would have loved to have kept that just for extracts. Again, a really fire OG, but it never got above 20%.
Dang.
18 to 20%. So.
Right.
And I'm sure that obviously goes back to, growers and, methods to a degree. But I felt like on the extract side, it was really, that was one that, would have loved to keep. So that'll at least give us the ability to maybe hold more strains and not always have them in rotation. And then hopefully we'll be able to utilize those for rosin and both, BHO. So we're seeing what works for us.
Right.
Can't wait.
Me and Tom, we're both, Tom and I, we're both fathers. And one question I get all the time as a father is, do I have a favorite kid? I can never pick a favorite kid. But being part of this company, do you have a favorite product that MPX makes only? It's kind of hard to choose, but
I'm my own harshest critic. As far as that goes, I definitely love good quality, and coming from the medical background, it's always been, what goes in my body is always of the highest quality, right? Or I always want it to be of the highest quality.
For sure.
So it's definitely the live resin. Live resin. I love the sauces and sugars, but I love batter. I love a nice terpy, wet, live resin batter, whether it be a Kush or any fruitier strain or haze or anything like that. But and then that kind of transcends into our sauce carts, because we use a lot of our live resin HTE for the sauce carts. And, I'm always thinking, of what strains mix well for the sauce carts, so because we've had a really, a lot that have been really, big hits, so I always try to make sure we're, at least keeping those in rotation, or trying to give the people what they want, so to speak.
Of course.
That's awesome.
I love everything, but yeah, those were, if I had to pick, that would be, again, what I'm smoking at home, MPX live resin.
There you go.
And on the go is these sauce carts. They're only half-gram carts, but if I'm out and about, say for a night, I could almost go through one of those things in a sitting.
There you go. I've definitely done that a time or two myself.
1000%.
But I like batters myself. I personally nothing against the diamonds, the sauces, everything else, but a batter to me always has the best terpene profiles to me, and it's easier to portion out the size dab I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Sometimes when you get one of those like big rocks,
A little easier
what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
do I want to break this? Or should
You
I
always
just
got to
do a
break
fat
them,
dab?
right? You always got to break them.
Breaking the shadows into smaller pieces,
Yeah.
like, God damn it.
Even for me too, I feel like you got to go just a little warmer with the sauce, depending on how big of a crystal you put in there.
Yes.
Even like the chunkier sugars, but I'm not talking too much warmer, but just from my experience. But yeah, it's
Just a scotch.
I don't discriminate on as far as really on form or the consistency, but yeah, the batters for
There you
sure.
go.
Like you said, just easy to handle. It's just overall, great. Like you said, full of terps. So yeah, love it.
We were talking about these cartridges a little bit too. Let's see here. Mr. Eddie brought us a couple different strains to try here of their
Yes, sir.
sauce cartridges. We
Yes,
have
sir.
kosher Skittles and we have Sour Jack.
Yes, sir.
In fact, if we can have Ms. Yaya bring us some rigs, we got a dab cap here. We're going to try some of these out. Oh, look at this. So the kosher Skittles, man. Let's see here. I'm seeing 28.7 milligrams per gram of limonene. 28. You guys hear that? That's a fucking lot. Caryophyllene, 19.38 milligrams per gram. Myrcene, 8.76. Like, this looks like this is going to smack. I can't wait
In
to
the
try
face.
this. Right in the face. This is
Actually,
good.
yeah, that's the one I'm smoking on right now.
There you go. And the
wonder why he's
Sour
chill.
Jack, too, we were talking about the terpenoline. It's got 11.9 milligrams per grams of terpenoline, 11.2 of caryophyllene, and 7.8 of myrcene for the Sour Jack, too. This thing looks great. Yeah, I want to try some of these out. We haven't actually done this on the podcast before, actually talked about vapes, but again, talking about extraction and everything you guys are doing, I think is the perfect vape to be trying here. But
Yeah, so real quick, the Sour Jack, we, again, thinking of, strains that I like to mix a lot of our in-house strains. So that's actually a Sour Tangy mixed with our Northtown Jack.
okay.
So I thought those flavor profiles would be really, really nice.
Thank you,
And
madam.
then
Thank
the
you.
kosher Skittles is actually, we don't buy a lot of outside fresh frozen, but one of the companies that we do buy a decent amount from is the Grower Circle. And we bought their kosher Nostra. And then we had some Skittles cake from Reina that was, we just had a little bit left over, so we did a mix of that, and that's what the kosher Skittles is.
Okay.
So, but I agree, yeah, killer numbers on that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That one tastes really good. So does the Sour Jack. So yeah, interested to see what you guys think.
Well, since we're Team Indica, I think I kind of want to go for this kosher Skittles just to start, and we'll go around and do the Sour Jack. We'll do a couple rips off here, and DJ's actually going to get our higher device here. The guys from G-Pen were nice enough to bring us their new higher device. This is an electronic dabbing apparatus. We each got some rigs here.
I'm interested to try that.
Yeah, this is, honestly, it works really solid. First time, we was coughing.
Man, they made us look so well. Go back to the episode, watch it, and tell me what Justin looked like. Leave it in the comments. Tell me what he looked like.
All right, see, this is the color you're supposed to be seeing in a live resin vape right there. Look at that. That's how you know it's got all the medicine in it.
Yes, sir.
We also got one of these awesome batteries, which we were talking a little bit, before we were shooting here about your batteries. How did you guys land on this? Because I love this style. I lose the stick ones. So I need something a little bit more hardy,
1000%.
I agree. I mean, real quick, I like the stick ones only because I like how you don't have to hit the button and you just drag and pull.
Right.
I like them for that
Auto
reason.
draws.
These pocket rigs actually were made by Kung Fu Vapes back in probably 2015 or 16 when we were initially partnering with them to do the batteries and everything. So we have so many of them.
There you go.
I don't even know if we give them out, potentially promo them when we do pop-ups at dispensaries, but yeah, that's kind of how they came about. We still have them. They still work great. Like I said, they have the 3 voltage settings. I think it's 3, 4, 3, 7, and 4. I like to go 3, 4 on especially like stuff like the Sour Jack or anything that has really high terpenoline. But for the most part, I like to go, even with like my dabs, just really low and slow. So I do like the fact that you can control the voltage on there.
Yep. We're going with your suggestion. We're doing 3.4 on this kosher right here.
All right.
I'm sorry. My attention is so drawn to this Jeff Fuel Acai. Are you kidding me?
Fire.
Limonene at 23.5, caryophyllene at 14.3, and myrcene at 12.3. Jeez. Yep, I'm excited.
I've actually never seen those. That's fucking cool.
Oh yeah, shout out to Select. They gave me this little dab cap, and I was like,
That's
we're smoking
dope.
vapes on the podcast. I need to get one of these out here. So
Yes, sir.
I thought you were saying like it was a dab cap, like so we could just like. Have you seen those back in the day? Like when you'd go to like Chalice or the festivals, and you'd
There's
have
like a
your own.
twister.
You'd have like your own little, and you could do it up for the rig. You could flip it over, and you put the joint in there. So yeah, it's a great concept.
damn, that kicks. I had to go back for a second. It tasted so good, Woo!
See, I've never hit one of our carts through a rig like this, so this should be interesting.
It's a fun way. A little filtration on there, What do you think, DJ?
Tastes like a cookie. What? Hold on. I gotta try it one more time.
There you go. All right, you got to go back for seconds. Get that fresh palate there.
No, that thing's ripping. That is another thing I like about these batteries too, is that some I just feel like it does depend on the cart too, but some I just feel like you can't get like a freaking fat hit off it.
Yeah,
so.
no, 100%. That's that vape tech.
All right, let's go in.
We should be saying don't try this at home, but please try this at home.
Or come to the lounge, hang out with us, and you can do it here. Yeah. I guess we don't really do vapes in here, but this is cool. This is a first for us, but again, this is a good catch. DJ almost dropped the extracts. Can you tell that we're getting high on this podcast?
Yeah, I'm not even there yet, and I'm already clumsy. It's crazy. Smell this, brother. Smell this. It's amazing.
Excuse me.
Ooh.
Right.
So, shout out to Rich. He's the one who cherry picked this strain. I'm
my
excited
gosh.
to try
Thank
it. You
you,
know what I
brother.
mean? Thanks,
Thank you,
Rich. I
my
can't wait
boy.
to try some of this jet fuel. There we go.
So that, if you guys are familiar with a company called Serene,
yeah,
SRENE, that was their fresh frozen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we gave it a try. Like I said, we don't buy a whole ton of outside material, but
Right.
we definitely like to go with some of the heavy hitters. And that was a really interesting strain. Again, more of kind of like a OG Kush kind of profile that I really enjoyed about it and liked about it. So yeah, we ran that I think twice now. I want to say it was batter both times. But yeah, a really nice strain that I definitely enjoy.
That's awesome. I'm a batter guy. I can't wait to try some dabs of this. But while he's getting that ready, I'm going to get this. This is the Sour
Jack.
Sour Jack. I already forgot, guys.
Yeah, these are all just some new ones that we released. And how we basically do these is we put it in, it's a 0.5 gram cartridge. But as far as how we do our formulation, we do a 1-to-1 with distillate and then 2 HTE.
Okay.
So that'll be, essentially
Even
a
parts.
0.25 of distillate and a 0.25 of the Sour Jack HTE. And then obviously it's homogenized before we have it tested and all that good stuff. But
So that's a good
yeah,
level
so
of
it's a
HTE there, so you
1-to-1
expect
ratio. I feel like that gives it that's why you see those terp numbers that you do see.
Yeah, I've never seen terpene levels that high on a vape ever,
Right, 1,000%. I'm gonna have to pass on that, brother, because gotta slow down.
You should.
Is that-
This one's really tasty. Like maybe just a baby one. This
Okay,
one's
fine.
Yeah,
super
sorry.
I'll
tasty.
take it, baby.
But like I said, this is a Tangy and a Jack mix. So that one definitely smacks. I've been really enjoying. I just got one the other day, so
Don't give me that look.
I really
man.
enjoy those profiles. Same with like our Dark Knight. Our Dark Knight makes a really good
love Dark
cartridge.
Knight.
Oh man, it's
Dude,
just
that-
such a unique profile.
That tastes amazing.
This is the Sour Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought out of we did 4 strains recently. I thought that was the
Yeah.
one.
You can definitely get those tangy notes coming through it. It's definitely loud and proud.
It's
and
very powerful.
That's very, very citrusy. Oh man, that's tasty, right?
Wow.
Right. See, good thing we listened. He's trying to pass on this.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we got dabs coming up too. But so before we do dabs,
Yes.
Mr. Eddie, in your opinion, what does it take to run a successful extraction lab? Again, as we said several times,
sure.
you guys are definitely synonymous with quality, industry leaders in that regard. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from everything else, it's there's a lot of things that go into it. I think a part of being the industry leader or one of them. Obviously, we're not the top. I think there's a lot of really good brands out here, but some of the notes that I had down here was when you're really talking about it, it really starts with a properly designed lab, right? You got to have good flow, almost like with walking in this building, right? If you're going, it's just it has to flow correctly. And since we have a cultivation and a production in the same building, things have to flow correctly. And I'm talking everything from how you prep your material, where you prep it, to your lab area, to your extraction room, whether it's a booth or it's a rated C1D1 room that you had constructed. just making sure it flows, really well. I think that's the biggest thing. Second to that is your extraction equipment, right? You got to have equipment that's going to be able to, meet your desired throughput. If you're trying to run 50 pounds a day, 2,000 pounds a month, and you have a 2-pound system, then you may have a problem. You're going to be working 3 shifts, just, rough numbers there, but generally speaking. But yeah, so I think aside from that, extraction equipment, just having, also having that vision with the owners or whoever is just setting this up, because that also helps with designing it correctly, purchasing the right equipment, having the budget that is, not kind of, I don't want to say going with the cheapest product, but just making sure you're doing your due diligence in all that, from, like I said, from setting it up to the equipment and just making sure everything, flows correctly. And then aside from that, somebody to run it, right?
Yeah,
like myself
of course.
And the 2 guys that right now we only have 3 guys in there, me and 2 other guys.
Wow.
We run 1 shift. We don't run 24/7, 2 day, I think if we did, then we would definitely be running out of biomass.
Right.
But right now, we only have 3 guys in the lab. We're looking to fill another position probably here shortly. So if anybody's interested, hit me up.
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, so I think aside from that, good skilled people. It doesn't take a lot, but you definitely have to have skilled people that are familiar with the process. From even, I always tell the guy who's the extraction prep guy, he's like our first, he's like almost an entry level position, so to speak. And all you do is pack and unpack columns. You prep columns, you prep stacks, you prep filters. And I always tell people that's the most important job to what we do, because if you screw that up, then it's like a domino effect, right? And it's also important because you learn, like I did, from the ground up, so to speak, and that just everything transcends,
for sure.
From the biomass to where we have the finished, jet fuel, acai, live resin sitting in front of us. So,
yes, sir.
So good techs, people that understand the process. And then I think aside from that, having the great lab, the great techs, is you got to have the good inputs, right? I always tell people excuse my language, we don't clean up dog shit.
Right.
We don't do CRC. I've never been about that. I've always been about quality. We do have to run trim. Obviously, that's part of the business.
Right.
I'm still very picky with that. I don't like buying outside trim for a lot of reasons, but so it's inputs all day, right? Always fire. Everyone says fire in, fire out, and it really holds true. Fire in, fire out. So it's just high quality inputs, and that goes not only from our live resin to our trim, but how it's maintained, how it's stored, how it's being harvested, and just making sure that everyone is following the SOP, especially if it's in regards to extraction, which I think a lot of people out there don't really do that. Other cultivations, so to speak, at least with their trim, or maybe they're not thinking that they're going to sell it for extraction. But for us, it's, again, if we can't do this, if we don't have high quality inputs, you know what I mean? 100%. I'm not a magician. I can't turn that jar into something, from non-quality to high quality. It just doesn't work that way. You might be able to do it, like I said, with CRC and the color, but you're never gonna for me, it's always the terps, and I'm sure you guys experienced a lot of CRC. To me, I can always smell it. Right. It's way too fucking light. Excuse me. So for being trim or WC, I call cured bud WCP. It's kind of a more industry term, whole cured plant versus like WWP, whole wet plant. But if it's trim or even whole cured plant, if it's coming out lighter than my live resin is, then I know there's a problem there.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But yeah, all day inputs, so I always struggle with that with because now we do have anthology, and I love anthology, but I love MPX too. So, I want all the fire for us. So, but we have to, we're a business, we got to sell flower
100%.
And that's why it's also, like we were talking about earlier, important to try to just, keep new genetics, new strains, new, ones that will appease the market, so to speak. But then I think with, like I mentioned earlier, with our tissue culture, it will just allow us to kind of maybe build that library a little bit, where we won't necessarily have to worry about losing a strain, or we could always strategically put something back in rotation depending on if we want to use it for, say, live rosin going forward, or if it's, one of the big things I liked about, I'll mention 710 Labs. I haven't consumed a lot of it, honestly. I know it's Cali and Colorado, and I've had some here and there, but I think it's really cool. At least from their own R&D, they know what strains are hash dumpers. They know what strains are only going to run to BHO, and that it won't be no different when we or if we kind of delve into this, live rosin side of things. So,
it's a big learning curve.
But I think it will be fun. You know what I mean? I think it will be fun with, at least having the ability to keep a big library of strains with the tissue culture, and then allow us to kind of just throw things in rotation, even taking like we did recently, it took a half a room just for fresh rosin. You know what I mean? And that's just to help supplement some of our own in-house inventory and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think those are the main things. I know it's a little long-winded, but all of those kind of really fall into place because I've been in the labs. It's not to talk smack, but I've been in a lot of other people's labs, and then I really look back at mine and I was like, this was designed semi-decently. It does have good flow. I'm not unpacking my columns in my extraction room or which is a huge cross-contamination issue. It's and then so it's like again, it's just like I don't want to say I feel grateful, but it's just I am grateful that that it was put together correctly because I wasn't involved in that process, and that it allows us to do our job in an efficient way.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go. That's awesome. I mean, it definitely helps, especially when you try to keep that consistency and that quality. You know what I mean? If it's not well designed, like you said, it just sounds like a dumpster fire.
It's all repeatable process, right?
Your
Your
grass
SOPs.
is greener where you water it. Sometimes you do to kind of need that perspective to kind of go like, oh, I see how these guys are doing it, and I'm actually really thrilled with how we do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to go see your work with that perspective, right?
So, and I don't get to go to a lot of other facilities, so it's actually cool when I get to, because it's interesting to see how everyone does things a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just a little differently. You might be running some of the same newts, but you're just doing, things a little different. Your height in your rooms are different. They're different, layouts, or it's just a little different.
Exactly.
So that's always cool. I'm always really, excited when I get to go tour another facility. So I'm actually going to that. If you're familiar with Firestar.
Oh, no.
Firestar, that one.
New one that just dropped, but I'm gonna go down there tomorrow and check it out because potentially buy some trim. So again, kind of just always excited to check out some facilities and kind of see how people set things up and design it, because that's another thing that on the side that I'm really heavily involved in is kind of consulting with labs and design and throughput and equipment, and that's so it's just that's always like in the back of my head when I walk into places, and I'm just always looking at flow and design and how we're gonna do this, and so.
There you go.
Of course, anything that you want to help build yours, why not take notes?
100%, absolutely.
So, could you describe the team that you guys cultivated over there at MPX?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been there since 2016. I did leave for about a year and a half. During that time, there was, some different techs that came in and out. But I'd say since I came back in 2019 and then subsequently took over the lab, we've had an individual that's been there since 2016. He didn't start, in the lab, but he worked his way up into the lab. I started doing our distillations, making distillate, kind of started in there, and then kind of, now he's our senior extraction tech right below me. So he's pretty much can do everything, in the lab at this point. But yeah, he's been there for 6 years. And, I think it's just finding people that are passionate about this.
100%.
And I'm 100% passionate about it. And I think a lot of times, especially in the corporate world or at work, sometimes, it gets me into trouble in the regard is sometimes I'll come off as, angry or mad when I'm really not, but it's more of just like that, like, why are we doing this, or what we should be doing, not necessarily conversations like that, but I'm sure you all have dealt with some situations like that where you're just trying to really, I guess, convey the message to, the people that make the decisions
100%.
About the right way to do something, the efficient way, the most cost effective and the profitable way, right? But still maintaining, your brand and your quality and what you're trying to do in the market. So
100%.
I honestly forgot where I was going with that because I'm a little high right now. But
I think it's a testament to your products.
Oh,
I think
the
we're all
team.
feeling
And I just wanted to. So yeah, my senior guy Rob. He's been there for 6 years. Again, passion, right? He's committed. He's a user. Not to say you have to be a user, but if you work in the lab, I mean, I look at this shit every day and I'm like, man, like that grape skunk we just ran. I'm like, I want to get this as soon as possible. The sour jack. I was like, but so. I'm not saying you don't have to have that passion if you work in a lab, but to me, it's almost like a prerequisite. I always joke with people, like, I'm going to drug test you and you better fucking fail. For weed.
If your THC levels aren't high enough, THC, I will not offer you the job.
For THC only. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then I have my extraction tech 2 is a guy named Jose. He's from Puerto Rico, a really good friend of mine. He got in, to the industry maybe, 4 years ago, but he's been working at MPX for about 3 years, 2 of which he's been in the lab now.
Nice.
Again, started as the, entry-level extraction tech. So just going through the whole kind of training and learning process of not only that job, but then, how it transcends down the line, right? With, now extracting, because that's what we're training him on now is, because like I said, we lost a guy, that's why we're hiring, but, so he got to move up and now, start doing more involvement with the extraction on the daily basis and more post-processing in the lab versus kind of staying in the prep room. But great guy. And again, passion, right? I mean, the guy's passionate. He's knowledgeable. He's a smart kid. And I think anybody that has that passion, I always kind of talk to about people like with sports, right? You got to be coachable, and every one of those guys is fucking in it for the right reason, right? And it's because they're passionate about it. They love it. It's a job at the end of the day, right? But I think that's for me what sets people apart. That at least in directly what I do is those are the people I want to work with,
of course.
Right? The people that are passionate about it, the people that want to be there, they want to learn, they want to make it a career. It's not just a job for them. You know what I mean? And that's how I did it. When I kind of first started and transitioned, but and that's the type of people I want to work with, especially in the lab. And I think that then transcends to the end product, right?
Right.
100%.
You know what I mean? Man, you can taste it, you can see it, you can feel it. It's tangible. So
that's their secret ingredient. They got the love in it.
That's the team, and I've worked with a lot of guys like that. The guy that taught me, my mentor, Jesse, was super passionate, and instilled a lot of really great values that I still, follow to this day and teach my guys. For sure. And whoever else, I'm trying to, put on, so to speak.
Of course, of course.
But yeah, so it's that's I think the biggest thing with the team, and like I said, I don't think those things are really prerequisites for working in the industry. But if it's not, or if you're not, rather, that kind of makes me question why you're doing it. Yeah. Is it just a job for you? Great, that's fine with me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're going to be in my area, I just feel like it's so much more helpful, especially with everything I just discussed. Training, coaching. Trying to get people to understand concepts, and we have 2 precision extraction machines. So I can run one, I can have another guy on one, I can be training, I can oversee 2 people or whatever the case may be. But that also gives us a lot of ability to have the ability to do a lot of throughput on a daily basis. But just everything that falls into that is what has created the team that we have today, and we continue. We don't. And with that being said, with how many years those guys have been there, even myself, it's I've probably only seen 2 new employees since 2016. So I think that has also helped, and just keeping those guys there, and
for sure,
they're happy and longevity. They're getting paid well,
and you're building them up. So it's like happy.
And you just keep building off it. Even like what I did when I left MPX for a while. I got an opportunity to run another lab and design something else and start something else, and I did. And I just took it and ran with it, and what I learned and what I was taught, and then and
got you where you are today, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's cool, man. That's awesome.
The team's important. You're only as good as your team, obviously. So aside from, even what you were talking about to run the lab, definitely aside from everything I mentioned in the inputs, clearly the team, right? Clearly. You know what I mean? You have to be able to trust them to run extraction equipment and not have to be, babysit them and hold their hand.
That's the worst.
It's a lean team.
I like to say it's a very straightforward process, but I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah. But when you are passionate about it and you want to dive headfirst into it, it also helps you understand it. And then when you do it, obviously, especially for me, like people can talk all day, but when it was like, especially 8 years ago, and I was like, oh, when I saw it, it was just like everything clicked, right? You know what I mean? And then it was just like from there, it was like clockwork,
Yes,
so yeah, the team is great. Love those guys. Everyone puts in a lot of hard work, and like I said, we're only there Monday through Friday. We're there from 7 to 3 every day, Monday through Friday, and we only do runs 4 days a week. Usually 1 day is for maintenance on our systems and solvent distillations and cleaning the systems, and
awesome.
So it's a pretty well-oiled machine at this point.
It sounds like it. I mean, proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, and I would have never guessed you guys are, running that lean of a team, as much product as you're putting out. So, shout out to you guys.
Well, the systems, we can run 5 pounds per column. It only takes about 45 minutes to run. Excuse me. There are older systems I'd like to get into just maybe some like socks or some upgradable ways that we can even make it more efficient. But again, it all comes down to our inventory, right? We need that biomass. We have 2 walk-ins. We have a ton of chest top. Like, we have a ton of storage and ability to store. But like, you know, I could blow through 250 pounds of fresh frozen in those 4 days.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, and then with cured resin, you know, 150 pounds if we ran 5 days, you know? So yeah, it's, you know, we got to keep places like this stocked, right?
Yes, sir.
That's right. You got to keep us
fed. People want it, you know.
Keeping us dabbing at home, right? I'm
actually going to hit this sour jack one more time.
I think we're
on the real, but
we're getting these dabs ready. And this is a great time to really kind of talk about the future. Where do you see MPX, or what are your goals? Where do you want to see MPX over the course of the next 5 years? And furthermore, where do you kind of see the market going?
Wow, well, 5 years, it's hard to say. I mean, markets, you know, you got to pivot a lot in this market, especially obviously with after COVID and everything. And we're kind of going into the slower season now with the holidays. But I don't know. I think, again, just focusing on what we do well, right? And continuing to, you know, make sure we're giving, you know, the consumers and the people what they want. Potentially, like we discussed, you know, starting the rosin line. There may be some other, you know, avenues. Of course, I could, you know, go on for days about things that I would personally like to do. But the company, we obviously just have to, again, focus on what we do best. I think along with live rosin, that would open it back up to edibles. I think edibles made with hash rosin versus like distillate, I'm not a huge edible guy. I don't know if you guys are, but but when I have had them, you know, when I've had an edible with some hash rosin, I mean, that shit smacked.
Yeah, we're on that.
You know, with distillate, not bad.
Yeah, it's
still get you high. You know what I mean? But for me in general, I just don't like that lethargic kind of body high. Yeah. I like the dab high for sure. Like I said, I can breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I can go out, take a dab, you know, go about my business. And my edibles, I kind of want to just like lay in that chair over there, and I want to be lazy because I'm like dragging ass, you know. But with that being said, I feel like the hash rosin edibles definitely, you know, smack. So I think, again, if we did, looking forward, venture into the rosin, then there's just so many more byproducts because, as you know, also, I'm not just doing one wash, right? I'm not, you know, the micron or the range of micron that I'm cold curing and whipping for dabbables is not going to be the entire batch, right? So now I have to figure out what I'm going to use for a food grade, and now what I'm going to potentially use for, you know, a cartridge, or, you know, am I going to use some of the you know, I guess cold cure that micron for my cartridges. So, you know, there's a wide kind of range of what that opens up to. You know, we'd probably have to get back into edibles because we're going to have a lot of food grade. Absolutely. Right? You know, because that's kind of another thing I brought up. It's like, well, if we're kind of putting a temporary hold on the kitchen, or we're just kind of reassessing things, it's like, if we do rosin, well, we're definitely going to have to start doing edibles again, because, you know, now it's just a necessity because, we could try to sell it, but this thing's ready to rock, DJ?
It's warming up now.
Okay.
I'll give you the go ahead.
Oh, dude, that smacked. I am fucking... Jeez.
Yeah, this is jet fuel. I've only had it, I think, once or twice. I want to say, if you look at the production run date, that was probably July.
Okay.
You get to go.
Yeah. Thing hits.
It should be good. Yep.
It was really tough to keep my composure and not just like start wheezing on camera with that one. Just it was good.
I just kept seeing the cloud building and building. I'm like, there you go, Tom.
I got it. You know, I got it. I'm a professional. Dab, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like we're saying. This is a good table here. You know what I mean? We're all dabbers. You know.
Dab too. The
you can definitely taste that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it tastes really good out of that, actually.
G-Pen does a really good job.
Yeah, it's actually pretty sick, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it gets the most of your extract, I feel, too. We've done this a few times where I think the first time we tried this on the podcast, we were like, we had to keep reloading it. We didn't know that yet. We're like, oh, why isn't it working? We're like, no, it gives you all of your wax.
Yeah, 1,000%.
What temp you got it at?
If I'm not mistaken, it's 90 seconds.
I know, temperature.
Oh, temp?
I think we'd have to consult the manual.
I'm just curious.
I don't think we're that...
I can puff on. I could literally, I think that's getting a little ass though now. I can taste it.
If I'm not mistaken, that might be at 450. Tom's might have been a little hotter.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very smooth.
It worked. I am faded.
It's the first time I ever hit one of those. Well, yeah. I mean, you just saw how much I hit that, so I mean, that was pretty nice.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, this is probably the highest I've been on this podcast. I think MPX just cinched it. You know what I mean?
I got to go back to work. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel it. Me too.
Just
That's
kidding.
cool. We got things to do today, but in that regard,
This is daily life.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
come on.
This is
I
the
might not
cannabis
be doing
industry.
back to back to back like that, but
Yeah,
at home, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's like if
but
I
yeah.
am, I'm not like going into work letting them know that's what just happened. But you know
Of
what I mean?
course.
Like I'm on point, you know. So
of course.
well, cool, man. So what would be some advice you would have for the next generation of cannabis entrepreneurs?
1000%.
Well, DJ beams himself up here.
Well, I really feel like cannabis entrepreneurs. So, I mean, clearly, if you're not passionate about it, probably don't want to get into it. I know a lot of people are getting into it because it's an investment. Certain people have thought it was a get-rich-quick scheme, and it's not. You know, it's a business at the end of the day, and you have to run a business to be profitable and run a good business. Have it managed well, but do your research, do your due diligence. Be creative. You know how this market is.
Absolutely.
It's you have to be able to pivot at any time. You have to be able to follow market trends and see what the consumers want. And I think that really transcends to products, right? What are we making? What are we trying to produce? How are we going to produce it? What is our budget to produce it? You know what I mean? What is our return on our investment? What is all these things that just go into your business model if you are starting as an entrepreneur? If you're just trying to get into the industry, then and you have no experience, that might be a first good start, and then you could build onto that or build up from there,
Right.
As you gain experience and knowledge and educate yourself and work experience. And other than that, it's I had some notes from earlier, but it's just I really feel like almost with the CBD world, especially with if the feds get involved at some point down the road, maybe 5 to 10 years, then it's like, what is that going to look like? It's going to be big MSOs, and it's going to be a race to the bottom, right?
100%.
Aside from the NuWu tribe, because they're going to be killing the game still,
You already know.
and a bunch of others up north. But that's kind of unfortunately where I see it going. Like with most big corporate industries, as they continue to progress, it is a race to the bottom. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing it right now in Cali, But then what does that mean? That means we don't have any more small boutique, processors. And then, what do people relate with that? Higher end quality, right? Boutique, high end quality, usually higher price. Not always the case, but, with going huge, to that, you probably are going to sacrifice quality, because at this point it's a business,
Absolutely.
for a lot of people in that mind frame. And I feel like that's also, even going back to me and the team and everybody, that's it is a business, but we don't obviously have that mindset, we're as far as what we produce in that regard. But so who knows what's going to happen going forward? I hope it's going to be all great. You know what I mean? I hope there's still going to be people that are going to be creating, because that's what MPX was. MPX was a small boutique business. It started in Arizona.
Right.
We got a license in Nevada, and then we became, an even bigger brand and had brand recognition. And then a big corporate company came and bought us out.
Crazy.
And the owner said, yeah. And then, give me 50%, ownership or whatever,
Yeah.
So, and then it just kept, trickling down from there as we got bigger, more licenses in other states. Then we got acquired by another company, and then that's just really how it works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah.
That's
So,
how capitalism works, right?
but he is obviously very, smart in with what he's doing and investing in. But I also think he's letting businesses run their business in their respective industry, right? That's why
Absolutely.
he's buying them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're value, or he sees value. So, long story short, who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe I'll be retired in 5 years,
Yeah,
hopefully.
right. He's
No.
like, there you go.
But maybe I'll hit the jackpot, hit that 100 whatever billion
There you
lotto.
go.
But anyways,
Man,
so
to listen to your passion, brother, man, good luck. I don't think your retirement is gonna be good for you, brother. I just hear it that drive is
100%.
gonna.
yeah, I do like
You
the
got
beach
there.
though. I like
There you
tropical.
go. There you go.
I like
Fair
Mexico.
Fair
There you
enough.
go.
But yeah, so we'll see. Well, I think as far as Nevada goes, we'll still be, leading the industry, top of the industry, even aside from, tourism. I feel like we have a lot of good companies, a lot of good brands. But yeah, it is leading into a lot of MSOs. So there will be probably a short list, in the near future, especially as more states go on. And there are those smaller companies that are getting acquired and, things of that nature. So we'll see.
Yep. 100%.
We'll see. It's just, for me, it's just going to be, is it going to be the same company making 20 different brands and it's all the same input shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm spitting out 20 different products. Not to say that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
100%.
that is a bad thing. I'm joking, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. But yeah, it's we'll see. I'm kind of like I said, I'm born and raised in Vegas, but I'm kind of excited to see what not only other states but other countries start doing.
Yeah,
I know Puerto Rico is a medical market now. One of my good friends is from Puerto Rico, so potentially hoping to start doing something down there for as far as lab wise, extraction, and just seeing kind of how I always told people, and I graduated high school in 2001, and 20 years it's going to be completely legal, and it's obviously is, pretty much is obviously still regulated, but so it would be interesting to see kind of how other countries take on. I know Thailand is pretty much decriminalize it, and then just seeing maybe delve into other areas or other countries. So
the global shift, though.
We'll see. But I feel like what I was kind of referencing before was obviously mainly to pertains to the United States, clearly, right? You know what I mean, with a lot of the MSOs. But who knows? They could be venturing out, outside of the states too, which I'm sure they are. They'd be smarter if they weren't. Right. But you know what I mean. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then eventually, what people always talk about is like interstate commerce, right? Is that ever going to be a thing when it maybe becomes federally legal? And then how that would not only. I mean, shit, now we're not competing with any people in Nevada. It's like I could buy weed from or biomass or anything from potentially other states, Maybe even if it only is biomass, say it's not stuff for dispensaries, but still that opens up, obviously a lot of different, avenues and, potentials, for business opportunities and things like that. So, boy, I got cotton mouth.
I think we need to get this man a bottle of water here. But
bottle of water, please.
I think we also did get through most of our questions too, and we need to get this room here open.
Yeah,
so
1000%.
make sure you guys all tap in with MPX on social medias. You guys are at mpx.us on Instagram. Where else? Anything?
Correct. meltingpointextracts.com. We actually, if you sign up if you go to meltingpointextracts.com, we have a newsletter on there. You can get our newsletter, and then our dispensary is Health for Life, NV, healthforlifenv.com. You can look them up and see the menu. But that's how you can see the dispensary. They carry most of our product as well as a lot of others. It's not just obviously just specific to MPX. But what I would like to do is maybe start doing some exclusive live resin drops that we could potentially do at the dispensary. Because not only that, we can offer it for a little cheaper. We have a lot of great buy one, get one deals. And not to rain on NuWu's parade, sorry.
No, you're fine.
But that's where you can find us. Instagram, social media, we're all over. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, like I said, that's a good way to keep track of, flavors that drop. We try to send out a newsletter every Friday with what respective flavors and strains of flower drop at what dispensaries. So
cool.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys subscribe to that email newsletter. I need to check that out. I'm a sucker for a good newsletter. What can I say? We have one for NuWu too. If you didn't know, but check it out.
There you go.
NuWu.Vegas. Yeah, right. Usually this is the part of the show where we say I think we need to go do a dab at the bar.
Yeah.
But I'm looking around and we all look really fucking high.
Yeah, we got marble eyes right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling great.
Shout out to MPX and their products because I am feeling amazing. This has been an amazing interview, Eddie.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Like I said, this is my first time, and wow, what an experience. So thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much, DJ, and I'm sure I will be back. We did enter concentrate into your cup, so
tap in.
Fingers crossed with that. Can't wait for the whenever it is New Year's, right?
Yes, we'll be making announcements New Year's
yeah.
Eve on our live stream.
Beautiful.
Make
Can't
sure
wait.
you subscribe to the YouTube. That's how you get notifications about these events. We have a few more
Thanks,
coming
guys.
up. So that's coming. And yeah, appreciate you, Eddie. Thanks for
All right,
coming
guys.
on.
Appreciate you.
You guys have a good one. Take it easy. It's been NuWu Sessions. We out.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, it was great.
Always helps.
Awesome.
When, we have guests that actually conversate, and we've had some guests where they're very short with everything. You love to hear the stories. Man.
I'd love to come back. I'd love to bring one of my guys. In the